We're taking a trip into the Division 2. We're going to be looking at a player's revenge. They're going after, well, a rogue unit called Ninjacell. The video we're breaking down is by Division Ninja on YouTube. It's called Experience Ninjacell Payback. Division 2's most cinematic build movie.
Catchy.
Very. And what's really grabbed my attention is that it's not your typical gameplay walkthrough. It's structured more like a revenge thriller, complete with the dramatic escapes and intense showdowns.
Yeah, what's really interesting here is how Division Ninja actually uses a narrative, a story, to teach the viewers about a specific build and strategy. It's way more engaging than just like a dry tutorial, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's like a how-to guide, but disguised as an action movie. But before we get into all the nuts and bolts of the build itself, let's set the stage a little bit. So our protagonist is a Division agent, right? And they were betrayed by their own unit, Ninjacell, and left for dead.
Ouch.
Yeah, not good.
Adds a personal touch, doesn't it?
It does. It makes it more than just a mission. Revenge. Exactly. And the video really leans into that with the whole cinematic presentation. Like, there's this scene where the agent's escaping, badly injured, and their SHD network is disabled, which means basically they're cut off from all their high-tech support.
So they're vulnerable.
Totally vulnerable. It's tense.
Yeah.
And then this mysterious figure named Alice shows up and rescues them. You can really feel like the stakes are high at that point. It's not just about completing the mission. It's personal.
Okay.
Okay, so the revenge plot kicks off, and the video takes us through all these action-packed set pieces. First up, there's an assault on DARPA Labs. Our hero goes head-to-head with Bulldozer. Now, Bulldozer is in a heavily armored battalion mech suit.
That sounds tough.
Oh, it is.
This is where we start to see the tank build come into play, right?
Yeah.
Player is withstanding so much damage. I mean, they're taking hits that would just wipe out other agents.
It's insane. And the video even points out the stats. 79,000 armor on kill. And 111,000 armor regeneration. How is that even possible?
Well, we'll break it down later, but it's all about stacking armor and regen. You create this, like, nearly unkillable character.
So basically, you're a walking fortress.
Pretty much, yeah.
I love it. What happens next? So then, we move to the docks. Ninjacell is trying to transport a nuke. Obviously, our hero has to stop them. And they use a crane. It's this awesome cinematic moment, explosions and everything.
I bet. It's smart how Division Ninja is, like, weaving the build showcase into the story.
Yeah.
We're not just being told about the strategy, we're actually seeing it.
Exactly. And then, of course, we have the final showdown. Things get really intense. First, there's this epic battle with Ghost, who's piloting another one of those tank mech suits. And then you've got the confrontation with the leader of Ninjacell, Brenner, also known as Starstrike.
Oh, I've heard of Starstrike. This part really shows off how powerful the build is. The player's going toe-to-toe with some of the toughest enemies in the game, just soaking up hits and coming out on top.
I'm guessing that armor has something to do with it. But here's what I found interesting. After all the action, the video doesn't just end. We get a debriefing. Back at the White House, Division Ninja actually breaks down the build in detail.
Nice. It's a smooth way to go from all that action to something more analytical. Keeps the viewers engaged.
Totally. Plus, there's a bit of humor thrown in. I love the part where the president offers the hero a latte and oatmeal after this brutal mission. Talk about a reward. And then there's this line about how the current government believes in fairness and democracy and killing ninja bastards. Hilarious.
Sounds like my kind of government.
Right. So we've seen the revenge story play out. We've seen the power of the build. Now, I got to know, what makes this ultimate tank DPS build so effective?
Well, let's dive into it, starting with the specialization. So this build is all about the gunner specialization. It's really the foundation. This is key because, you see, it gives you a 10% armor bonus on every kill. Yeah, plus it gives you a med kit that boosts your armor even more. And you get the Banshee Pulse skill, which is great for crowd control.
So you're just constantly regenerating armor as you take down enemies.
Exactly. You just get tougher and tougher.
Makes sense.
But it's not just about raw armor, right? This build uses specific weapons and talents to maximize, survivability and damage.
Okay, so there's some real strategy involved in the weapon choice. What's he using here?
So he's got the Chameleon Assault Rifle with the Adaptive Instincts talent.
Adaptive Instincts?
Yeah, so what that does is it gives you a boost to weapon handling, accuracy, and rate of fire after each kill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're taking down enemies quickly, and the damage just keeps flowing.
So you're getting more accurate, more deadly with each kill.
Exactly. Pretty intimidating, right?
Oh, yeah.
And to go with that, he's also using the Lexington submachine gun. with the preservation talent.
Now, what does that one do?
This one is key. It heals you. For a percentage of the damage you deal to enemies within 10 meters.
Wait, so you're like a walking health fountain, healing yourself while you mow down enemies up close.
You got it.
That's amazing.
Now let's talk about the gear. Every piece is picked for a reason, to add to the tankiness and damage of the build.
I bet. What are some of the highlights?
Well, he's using a Ninja Bike backpack. That gives you a big armor boost. And then there are 2 pieces of Gila Guard.
Gila Guard, okay.
That increases explosive resistance and gives you more armor regen.
Smart. Got to be ready for those explosions.
Right. Then he's got a piece of Bellstone, increases damage to pulsed enemies, which, works with that Banshee pulse skill.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then 1 piece of System Corruption for skill haste, and finally a piece of Golan for that extra melee damage.
Wow, so every single piece of gear has a purpose, all working together.
Like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly.
Now, we can't forget the skills. He's using the Banshee Pulse, of course, for crowd control. Disorients enemies, makes them vulnerable.
Yeah, I remember that from the video, like a shockwave.
Yep. And then the Crusader Shield.
Ah, the shield.
This thing is crazy. In this build, it has 4.7 million health.
4.7 million. Are you serious?
You could practically stand in front of a tank.
No kidding.
That's a huge part of what makes this build so tanky. You can just absorb insane amounts of punishment.
It's clear that a lot of thought went into this. The specialization, the weapons, the gear, the skills, it all works together perfectly.
Absolutely, and it shows. You see it in the video, how effective it is.
Yeah. But, with all this focus on armor and survivability, I'm wondering, how does this tank build compare to other popular builds in the Division 2?
Good question.
Are there any downsides to being this tanky?
That's a great point. While this build is amazing for solo play, for really soaking up damage, it might not be the best for group play. Where you have other builds focused on support or burst damage.
Right, so there are trade-offs.
Always trade-offs.
Like with any build, I guess. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Exactly. And that's what I love about build diversity in games like this. Players are always experimenting, finding new combos, adapting to challenges.
Yeah, it keeps things fresh.
It does. But going back to the video for a second, even though this build is super powerful, it's not just about the stats, right?
Right.
Remember how Division Ninja presented it all? That revenge story?
Yeah.
It makes it so much more engaging.
Oh, absolutely. I'd much rather watch a story than just see a list of gear,
Exactly. And it's part of a bigger trend we're seeing, I think.
Yeah.
Content creators are finding new ways to teach, to share information.
It's like they're blending entertainment with education.
Right. It makes you wonder if this approach could work in other areas too, beyond gaming.
Oh, interesting.
Like, could we use storytelling to make learning about history more exciting? Or science? Or even politics?
Well, that's a cool thought.
Yeah.
Imagine learning about science through an action movie. It's really cool to see how gaming is pushing boundaries. This deep dive has been amazing. We've not only looked at this awesome build in the Division 2, we've also talked about some bigger trends in gaming and the future of learning.
It's been a great conversation.
It has, so big shout out to Division Ninja for the video. If you're a Division 2 fan, or if you just like creative gameplay content, check out his channel. And hey, before we go, this whole thing got me thinking. If I were to design my own revenge build, what would it be? What kind of unique strategy would I use?
I love that, Cortland. It really shows what makes these discussions so fun. It's not about copying someone else. It's about finding your own style.
Exactly. Maybe I'd go for a stealthy assassin build.
Yeah.
Taking down enemies quietly from the shadows. Or maybe a hacker build, disabling their systems, turning their gadgets against them.
So many possibilities.
I know, right?
That's what's so great about it. It gets you thinking outside the box.
Totally. It's not just about finishing the mission. It's about creating your own experience.
Well said. And who knows? Maybe your revenge build will inspire other players.
Yeah, I like that. So, to all our listeners out there, if you were to make your own revenge build, what would it be? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your ideas. But for now, this is the end of our deep dive into the Division 2. We've covered a lot, from that awesome tank build to the creative side of gaming.
It's been a blast.
Thanks for joining us. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep playing. And before we wrap things up, this whole deep dive has got me thinking. If I were to design my own revenge build in a game, what would it be? What kind of unique strategy would I use?
That's a great question. I think it really gets to the heart of what makes these builds so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just about following someone else's blueprint, It's about expressing your own play style, your own creativity.
Totally. Maybe I'd go for like a stealthy assassin build. taking down enemies quietly from the shadows. Ooh, or maybe a tech-savvy hacker build,
Ooh, nice.
disabling their systems, turning their gadgets against them.
So many possibilities.
I know, right?
That's what's so great about it. It encourages you to think outside the box.
Yeah, for sure. It adds a whole other level of engagement to the game.
Yeah.
It's not just about completing the mission anymore. It's about crafting your own experience,
Exactly.
leaving your mark on the world.
And you never know. Your unique build might inspire someone else.
Oh, that's a cool thought. So to all our listeners out there, if you were to design your own revenge build, what would it be? Let us know. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear your ideas. But for now, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Division 2. And this incredible tank build, we've covered a lot,
We have.
from the cinematic storytelling to the gear and strategy.
It's been a fascinating exploration, not just of the build itself, but also of the ways players learn and share and engage with games.
Absolutely. Huge thanks to everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. And remember, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep playing.
For God's sake, hit the buttons. Let's make America great again.